Hi everyone, today let's talk about the Fed minutes. Do me a quick favor and like and subscribe and watch the video till the end to help out the channel, and let's get started. So Fed officials were actually pretty divided on the Fed minutes, which honestly is pretty expected. I was divided. I thought we were going to get 25 basis points. We ended up with 50, and it shows that a lot of the Fed officials actually did agree with my take. And you can see that here. There were some members that were divided on the economic outlook, and some policymakers did not approve of that 50 basis points. You can see Fed Bowman voting against. She is one of the more hawkish, saying that a quarter point was preferred. And they mentioned this is the first vote of dissent since 2005. There were also some other members here saying that they would have preferred 25 basis points. Several participants noted that 25 basis points would be in line with the gradual path, which again were all things that I supported, but they ended up going with the 50 basis points. That's what markets wanted. Markets had priced in that 50 basis points, and that's ultimately what they ended up going with. And you can certainly point to the fact that we saw the 800,000 revision in new jobs, but non-farm payrolls continue to do well here. It'll be interesting to see if those get revised. So overall, many mixed signals. Powell using the term recalibration, meaning that they need to bring more alignment to the inflation as well as the labor market. And like I said, the majority of them did vote for that 50 basis points. And you can see here the end of 2025 is supposed to be between 3.25% and 3.5%, which means we're looking at a 1.5% potential. And that's why I think the 2-year is just a little bit too high right now. I think we need to drift towards these numbers. Certainly the Fed could make adjustments, but I think this is more reasonable for a little bit over a year from now. Moving over to fear and greed, we did step up to a 72 from a 71. Looking at the chart here, you can see we've been hovering just like we were hovering here. So far, still in that same kind of pattern, staying at extreme greed, just short of it. And then momentum, no change there, still in greed. Strength and breadth still hovering. Breadth does continue to roll down just slightly. Looking at the put call ratio, also stepping up here a little bit today, back into neutral. Interesting to see that, 0.72. VIX continuing to hover. It's in neutral, but it is still elevated, definitely above the average price here for the VIX. And then looking at safe haven demand, extreme greed makes sense. And then junk bonds pulling back into neutral here for the first time in a while. Moving over to the economic calendar, 10-year note auction came in at 4.06, so a little bit higher than the previous by about 1/3%. Pretty good number there. Would like to see that come down over time. We did get Fed minutes, GDP 3.2, and then for tomorrow we do have CPI in the morning. Definitely could be interesting. We can see the core number expected to step down to 0.2 from 0.3. Year over year flat at 3.2. Headline number year over year expected to step to 2.3. Very, very close to that 2 number. Think it's going to continue to go there. I know the Fed watches the core number more than the headline, but it is reassuring at least a little bit. Fed balance sheet continuing to watch that one. And then for Friday, you do have core and headline PPI as well as the Michigan data to round out the week. Moving over to max pain, we finished the day at 577. You can see well above that max pain number of 567. We'll see if that plays a factor here going into the Thursday and Friday sessions, but we're still hovering well above. And you can see that underlying price here, 577.07, well above the max pain number. We'll see if that continues to play a role as we go into the Thursday and Friday sessions. And then you can see all of the max pain numbers very, very bearish, continuing to get more and more bearish here for 2 weeks from now. Very concerning to see that 8% number out there. But for right now, into the Friday session, about a 2% down move. That's pretty substantial, almost there. So something to consider. Right now, we're doing okay. We haven't seen that pullback quite yet. Moving over to the charts, looking at the S&Ps, you can see we are culminating here at the trend line. We went right to it. That's what we thought was going to happen in yesterday's video. And sure enough, that's the continuation we got. 0.69 to that level. We hit the trend, found resistance. Momentum says we could potentially break out here. That would be interesting if we do get the continuation. This is a new all-time high close, so that is another potential bullish move here. If this breaks, then we're going to be in true price discovery. Technically, this is price discovery, but I think it was the more expected outcome based on the current pattern. But based on this pattern, usually this is a medium-term bearish pattern. So looking for the breakout, waiting to see what happens, and then usually that would give you a bearish move in the next couple weeks potentially. Looking at the SPX here, just to look at those trends, you can see clear breakout here as well. Got to this trend line yesterday, clear move. The next resistance is way up in the 6,000 area. I don't know if that's going to happen, but something to consider. And then looking at the short time frames here, you can see we pushed right through the level, 574.71. pushed right to my trend, touched it, pulled back slightly. We're finding some support in the after hours. Definitely extended, definitely in overbought conditions. Might see a slight pullback and then a continuation. Either way, everything continues to look bullish here in the short term, and price action is king for sure. So like I said, medium term, probably going to pull back, but for now, everything looks good. Moving over to the Tasty charts here, you can see we did push very close to that upper ATR band. We did take out the ATR trailing stop, so we're back into bullish conditions, momentum bullish. Upper ATR band is now at 578.57. So in the short term, we might see a little bit more grinding price action. We've definitely gotten the follow through to that level. Now what happens after that, you can see when we get a touch, pull back in time, another push, pull back in time, another push. So usually it does go higher over time, but it is going to slow down now since we've gotten into that range in my opinion. Overall though, still bullish. Moving over to the NASDAQ, same thesis here, 0.79 to the upside, right to the high from Thursday the 26th. Watching this structure here, looking for a push up to the trend here, up at 510 or so. I don't think it's going to happen all in one push, but certainly seems like we can get the gap fill back here. The close of that candle was 496.34, so about $2 higher, a little bit less than $2 higher to touch that zone. I think we're going to get there. So a little bit more than $3. I think we're going to get there tomorrow. Momentum bullish, RSI bullish. If we do get that push, that's about 3 to 4% higher, 3 3/4 or so. I'm sure there will be some resistance at the all-time high. Let's go ahead and throw on those levels. And you can see those here. Broke the 492 level, pushing to that 500 level. And then above that, you do have the all-time high, which is at 503.52, so just a smidgen above that. And then looking at the short time frame, you can see it was basically straight up here for 2 days. Broke this level here, did retest it, did get the continuation. Didn't quite touch this high back here from Thursday the 26th, but I do think it will touch it tomorrow, and I do expect it to hold. As long as 492 holds in here, I still have a bullish thesis for the rest of the week. Moving over to the NASDAQ, same thesis, back into bullish conditions here, so everything continues to look quite bullish. Took out that ATR trailing stop. That was at 491.10. Closed above it on the first candle, continued higher. Upper ATR band is at 495.52. Again, same thing as the SPY. Once you hit there, you do start to see some grinding action, sideways resistance, grinding action, continuation. Again, grinding action, continuation. So it does start to slow down once you get there. Doesn't mean that we can't continue higher. We likely will, but it's probably going to slow down at least a little bit. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow, you can see both of these had a positive day. The Russell was 0.22 on the day. It did get well above my level, 218.13, but ended up closing just barely below it, 218.06. A little bit concerning. We did see momentum step back to bullish. RSI still below the SMA. I would have much preferred to see it close above that level. I did end up jumping into some shares, so we'll see how that plays. I still think this is kind of arcing up along with everything else. Want to see that follow through tomorrow. It's above the trend line still, so not a terrible position, but definitely concerning to see it close below the level. And then looking at the Dow here, pushing back towards the all-time high, strong day, 1%. Next level is 426.20. Momentum's back to bullish. And then looking at the RSI here, you can see we did cross it just barely, so that's another bullish indicator. If it breaks that all-time high, your trend resistance is up around 429.50, right in that 430 zone. Moving over to Super Micro, once again touching the level there at 48.89. Positive day, 4.28%. Momentum bullish, RSI bullish. I still think this is going to go. Want to see it break that level, which is about $1.80 higher. Again, that's 2 tests in a row. Waiting to see what happens. 55 EMA is just behind it there at 51.66. And then looking at the yen, continuing to watch this. Another down day, 4.8. I think that 21 EMA is probably going to be where we find a little bit of support. That is at 33.59, so about $6 lower. The after hours price is 39.66. Moving over to Apple and Microsoft. What a move here on Apple, 1.68%. So we had the big head fake on the Monday, gapped up and rallied on Tuesday. Continuation here almost to the next level in the trend at 230.28. That is the current price target. Momentum back to bullish, RSI back to bullish. So we're back into this range. We've seen this before where you did have a big push, big wick, rejection back down to the level. So we'll see if it can break out. We've had the head fake in both directions. You can see that here on September 30th. Thought we'd get the continuation here. Gap down and fell. Got the breakdown. Gap up and rally. So Apple stuck in here. And then looking at Microsoft, still very much bearish in the medium term, but it looks like we're going to rally back up to this trend here around 426, 427. Momentum back to bullish. RSI looking to retest the SMA. So a little bit of room there. Once it tests in here, I would expect it to break down again. But for now, short-term bullish. just barely testing that 200 SMA at 417.22. Moving over to Tesla and NVIDIA, you can see Tesla was down 1.41%. You can see we're still at these lows though. That level is holding in there very strong. We've been chopping. We can't get below that level. So interesting to see that. 241.90. Momentum in RSI still bearish. Based on everything, it should push back down to 232.50, but it's not doing it quite yet. It's still hanging in there. And then looking at NVIDIA, it did go higher just for a brief moment. The high of day was 134.52. Still well above the 130 level. Still looking for a test of this next trend, which is currently sitting up around 138, 139, just ahead of that level at 140.76. And everything continues to look bullish. Let's go ahead and extend that out just a little bit. Based on this, you'd expect to touch somewhere around Wednesday of next week. Moving over to Amazon and Google, these are doing some interesting things here. So Amazon 1.34% to the upside, still pushing towards 188.61 after holding the level here at 181.41. Momentum back to bullish. RSI, again, looking for that retest of the SMA. Then we'll see what happens after that. And then look at Google. Down when everything was up, 1.59%. You can see we touched the level here, 161.59. We'll see if that holds. But now this is a bit of a breakdown. We took out the trend. We're looking to touch that 200 at 161.14. Now we're going to see if this holds in here. If it breaks through here, we're probably headed back to the 150s. And I do think this is a very important zone. And it's certainly possible that it breaks right through here. And last time it did, like you can see, it pushed right to that zone here. So Alphabet looking quite bearish. Something to watch in tomorrow's session. Moving over to staples and discretionaries, looks like we might be getting a midpoint here. So we got a top, we got a fall. Looks like we've established a bit of a midpoint, looking for a rally back up to that double top type pattern. Momentum swinging back to bullish. Similarly here, prices pushing back to bullish, back above the 55 EMA. The 9 is sitting there as your first target at 81.86. So just a couple of cents higher, but if that breaks in here, then 21 is up there at 82.61. Either way, this is a little bit risk on, both of these going higher in the short term. Next level here for discretionaries after the gap up and rally is 200.53. This trend line continues to be important, and that resistance is up around 202.80, right in that 203 zone, and then the level just behind it, 203.98. Moving over to oil and gas and technology. Oil and gas was just barely positive. It did find a new low at the 55 EMA, caught a bounce from there. So being patient, want to see a touch of the 135 area. That would be nice. And then see it hold that level as a higher low and then push. Right now, momentum is stepping back to bearish, so I'd be patient there. But look at technology. Big push, big second day follow through like we thought it would. Looking for the gap fill here. The low there is 233.44. So that's about $3 higher from here. Then we'll see what happens after that. Based on the trend, you could see a push all the way up in the 245 area. Momentum bullish, RSI bullish, technology continuing to look quite good. Moving over to breadth, we did get a little bit of a breadth thrust here. Pretty good day. 12.12%, 6.52% respectively, pushing right back to the 200. At this point, it looks like a breakdown rally up, looking for the retest, then a potential continuation lower. Certainly happens occasionally. Sometimes you just fall through the floor, but right now it seems like we're catching a little bit of a bounce in here around that 45 area. Momentum stepping back to bullish, still below the SMA. So again, same thesis as pretty much everything else. Short-term rally, looking for the retest, then we'll see what happens. Similarly here on 50-day, pushing back above these trends here. Looking for the 21 EMA, 74.66, and then my level 77.46. Either way, short-term bullish. Still looking at some clear resistance within the next day or two. Moving over to yields, continuing this aggressive move here again today. So the move was 1.67 and 1.47 respectively. Still just barely in normal conditions. Looking for this to push up to that 200 at this point on the 10-year. 2-year, like I said, I feel like this should be trading closer to that 3.5, 3.25 area. But right now, we have a clear up move, probably just a little bit oversold here. Now we're getting the relief rally. I would expect it to break down eventually. Once it does, that should be bullish for equities, but right now, this is a little bit of a headwind for markets. Moving over to the dollar, continuing towards that 102.98, big up move on the day. Just short of 0.5%, but momentum stepping back to bearish here on the daily chart. Interesting. If this falls off, maybe we see a bigger push on equities over the short term. Right now, the dollar's headed higher, yields are headed higher, and equities are headed higher. Pretty uncommon to see all of those at the same time. Eventually, one of these will reverse. Is it going to be the dollar first, or will the dollar continue to rally and we see equities start to pull back? Right now, it seems like it's probably going to be a dollar pulling back to the 21 EMA, finding some resistance here at 102.98. Moving over to bonds, J&K still finding some support, momentum still bearish, volume coming in there, interesting. Had a little bit of a sell, some buyers coming in potentially, maybe this is finding a base. Interesting to see that volume almost at 6 million, just about double the previous 2 days. You can see Monday was a 2 million day, so big volume, doji candle, finding some support, I think. And then looking at TLT, no volume spike, momentum still bearish, 200 SMA still support at 94.25. Also, I did extend out this trend line here. We had it marking this bottom, couple of interesting levels in here, and now we are touching that level once again on today's candle. We'll see if this finds some support. It's been a big fall already. Definitely think it's extended. RSI is at a 29.78, so probably going to find a bounce here soon. Moving over to volatility. Volatility continues to fall to this level here. Found support at the trend, 20.78. Momentum stepping back to bearish, RSI still above the SMA but trending lower. As this trends higher, these will probably come together, find some support, and then go there. Either way, this has a little bit more downside, which means equities should have a little bit more, in my opinion. Then we'll see what happens once we start getting closer to that SMA on the RSI. Moving over to my accounts, you can see I did put on those shares here for the IWM. Still managed to squeeze out a little bit of a profit, it says here, but I did roll out to the 219 for tomorrow at $1.88. I put on the 218 for today, which I should have held. I could have made some more money on that and I would have been in a better position, but I rolled it out on the strong push. Still have some money there, still about 90 cents left on this call. Could have rolled it down. I decided not to. Hopefully we get the continuation on the Russell. And then looking at the Qs, rolled out and up one more here to 486 for $8 credit. And you can see we got a little bit more rally on the day. So max profit now is all the way up at 494.30 for the Monday session. Again, gives me a little bit of room there. It was rallying a little bit after hours, but we'll see how it plays in tomorrow's CPI, as well as the PPI on Friday. I don't think that's going to be a big mover, and everything still looks bullish, but you never know. Let me know down in the comment section what you think of the Fed minutes. Are they going to cut 25 basis points? Are they going to pull back if we see some bad data between now and then? They did say the path is not set yet. What do you think is going to happen? Otherwise, like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.